Okay, we're going to build a model of this windmill, and the first part of the exercise we'll be looking at making the sails using arrays. So we have a series of modified cubes, and we're going to make an array of the vanes. So there's sets of 3 or 4 vanes which can be tilted. Those 3 or 4 vanes are then repeated 6 times, and at either end of each of the sets of vanes is a horizontal support, and then down the outside and inside are control beams, and the whole thing is supported by struts. So the first of all, we've made the vanes, we've added an array making 4, and then we've set a second array making 6 of them, and then the supports we just need to make 7 of them. Notice all along we have to go into edit mode and move and scale the vertices in edit mode and leave the object scale and positions as 0, and this is very important when we use a second object to control the array rotation and movement. So we've moved them so they're away from the origin where the actual vane part of the arms are. We've added a hub as an object to do the rotation about, and we do that after we've done the linear array. So it looks to work okay, but now when we try to move the hub to make it rotate horizontally, everything goes awry. So basically we have to make our rotational hub a child of a parent hub, and we can move the parent hub around and everything will move with it. So we then have to, we can do shift and drag and drop in the outliner to do the parenting, because we now have 2 empties in exactly the same place, which will be difficult to select with a mouse. And you see we can rotate around the X and Y axis. So now we undo those rotations and movements, and we're going to add the spokes of the windmill. Add a cube, and then in edit mode shape it into a long narrow beam of wood. One issue is not knowing where we put the originals of the vanes, so if you select those and go to edit mode you can see where the original is and extrude it and scale it in that direction as well. We're going to have one beam running along the leading edge of the sails, and then some smaller strips of wood on either side, and then we'll add a secondary. If you look at the original photo you'll see there's a secondary piece stuck behind to strengthen the root of the aerofoil. So one thing we see, we actually need to move the supports and the vanes off to one side. Again, everything has to be done in edit mode in order for it not to scramble the array relative to another object. So that's the main beam, and then we'll make a much smaller one to run along the trailing edge. Basically that's just a structural support, and another one running along the top of the leading edge, which is presumably a control member to change the angle of the vanes, and a kind of Venetian blind arrangement. I'm not putting any great detail on here. It's mainly to show you the issues of using arrays to create repetitive objects in Blender. So we just tweak them around and check them. Then we have the thicker part at the root to support, so duplicate the original one, and then we'll just move the end in so it only runs part of the length. we see now we come to look at it that on the actual photograph, all of the beams are not at the same height. The north and south beams are set in compared with the east and west beams. So in order to cope with that, we're basically going to have to put in a second or a third empty, which can be used to rotate and offset the opposing spokes, or 90-degree spokes, and then we duplicate that. So we have 2 copies shifted and rotated, and then 2 copies of that again. So we've got 180, and then we have a duplicate at 90 degrees. And we have to do the same arrangement for the vanes and the supports. So change the count to, we've rotated the empty by 180 degrees rather than 90 degrees, and then we add a second array to duplicate it at 90 degrees with an offset.